Hello everyone, and this is BioPhoenix here. So for the second game I'm doing for Horror Month, this is a game that isn't really a horror game, although it does have like gameplay elements that I suppose could work in a survival horror. But what I'm saying is that this game doesn't have any like typical horror themes, like it doesn't deal with like monsters, vampires, ghosts, or whatever. So the game I decided to pick was Aconcagua. Yes, I finally know how to say this damn name. So the game was developed by a company with a very ridiculous name called Whack Whack. Yeah, I guess that's a thing, but it was published by Sony of all people, and was released in 2000 and only in Japan for the PS1. And this happens to be a point-and-click adventure game. So that's why I'd figured I'd talk about this one in October, because, well, it has gameplay elements that definitely have been in horror games before, like Clock Tower, but then you also have the fact that this game takes place in a situation that would be pretty horrible to be in real life. And just by the way, as I'm doing this video, there is no fan translation of the game yet, but the game's cutscenes actually has voice acting done in both English and Spanish, which is very fascinating. And thankfully, there are walkthroughs of the game online already, so the game is very playable if you don't know Japanese. So with that said, let's talk about the game's story. So there is a fictional country in South America called Maruza, and it's being ran by a dictatorship who has been doing a lot of shitty things within the country, for some examples being mass genocide. So the only one who can put a stop to this is the country's very first president, Pachamama. So one day, she's trying to get to the very first Independence Day of Maruza, and she has to travel by plane with a bunch of other passengers, and one of those other passengers happens to be the main character, Kato. And he is a Japanese journalist who used to be into mountain climbing, but on that very same unlucky day, there happens to be a bomb planted on the plane, which explodes and then crashes into the top of the mountain. And now Kato and Pachamama have to look for all the rest of the survivors. So those are the two characters that you can play as, but there's also three other ones that do join you as well. Such as Steve, who happens to be an engineer from America, and he always happens to like freak out a lot of the times. But given the situation that they're in, I can kind of understand that. And then we got Julia, who happens to be another journalist, but she's from America. And finally, we got his Lopez, who happens to be really tall, and he's also like really strong where he can like push objects. So that's all the playable characters in the game, and of course, you gotta make sure they survive the situation that they're in, which is a combination of two things. Dealing with the harsh climates from being on a mountain, and there is a group of government agents who are trying to hunt them down. And the reason why the government agents are trying to kill them is because they were actually responsible for planting the bomb on the plane because they're trying to assassinate Pachamama before she becomes, like, officially the president. So that sums up everything you need to know about the story, and I have to say, it's a pretty cool concept. I remember when I first heard about this game, I thought it was just going to be just a straight-up survival game, just trying to survive from the mountain. I never expected there to be some, like, sort of like assassination attempt. So I thought that was a pretty cool idea, but anyways, let's get moving on to the game's gameplay. So as I said, this is a point and click where obviously you control a cursor and you just point at the area that you want the character to walk to. And you gotta collect items and you gotta use those items with certain things to progress through the game. And you can switch between all the different characters, and every character has their own like special thing they got going for them. So Kato is the more like general type of guy who can just use most items. Steve is able to open up locked briefcases and is also used for a lot of like machinery type stuff. Lopez, as I said, can lift and push heavy objects. And Julia is actually one of the few characters that is totally okay with killing people. Yeah, so she uses a knife, and whenever you have to, like, sneak up behind someone, yeah, she just straight up kills the sons of bitches. And Pachamama, on the other hand, well, she's basically just a kind of extra along with Kato, where she can also do, like, just general basic things. And I feel like she's just good as just an extra that can save time in case, like, Kato is doing something that's just way out of the way. So if you think about it, this game is pretty much like a point-and-click version of The Lost Vikings, if anyone remembers that game. So yeah, it's a pretty easy game to understand how to play, although sometimes it can be kinda hard to figure out what you're doing, but that's mainly because of the language barrier though. So now, as for the game's controls, well, they're surprisingly pretty decent for a game like this. So normally when it comes to point and click games on consoles with a controller, sometimes it can be a real bitch. But thankfully, the cursor does feel pretty responsive with this game. The only complaint I really have with the game when it comes to controls is that sometimes I feel like when you're trying to get the exclamation mark to show up whenever you want to click on something, it can be a little bit finicky at times, but other than that though, I really don't have much complaints with this game in terms of controls. Like, everything is very simple, the button layout is also very simple, and because you control the character by clicking, there's really no, like, precise movements that you really need to take. So yeah, there's not a whole lot that I can really say, but yeah, it pretty much speaks for itself. So now, let's talk about the other things, like the graphics. And the graphics for this game are pretty damn amazing for PS1 standards. So, obviously, because it's the year 2000, you know that the graphics are going to be a lot better than a lot of, like, the earlier PS1 titles. But even for the year 2000 itself, it still looks damn good. Like, I would even say that it's probably one of the nicest looking 3D games on the PS1, right up there with Vagrant Story and Deception 3. So all the backgrounds and all the places you get to go to around the mountain all look pretty cool looking, they're all pretty well done, and of course the character designs I think are pretty good looking for what they are. Obviously they're not over the top like anime looking characters, but I think they look good for what they are. But I think it's really like the animation on them I think is really amazing, like the motion capture, like I think that looks damn good. Like, to be honest, I would even say that the graphics in this game, I think are much more nicer to look at than some of, like, the launch titles on PS2, which really says a lot for a PS1 game. So, yeah, there's really not much I can really complain about here. I think for what it definitely is a very impressive looking game for PS1 standards. And now, as for the game's music, I really like it a lot. I think it's pretty great. Not only do you get the really great, like, atmospheric, like, wind and, like, snowstorm type of sounds, but you also get a lot of, like, awesome, full orchestrated music that sounds very movie-like. And I feel like that fits the game perfectly for the fact that this game really does feel like a movie at times, with all, like, the cutscenes and all that, so I actually really dug that a whole lot. But probably the most impressive thing that I found with the music, and also the sound effects, was that the quality of it was like super high production, and it just sounded like so clean, so crisp, no like compression at all, like it just sounded like really damn amazing. Like I was impressed. So yeah, definitely a really great OST that I can definitely recommend listening to if you really love like movie soundtrack style type of songs. And now, as for the game's voice acting, so like I said, the voice acting in this game is all in English and Spanish. So meaning that I can actually say something about the English, and I gotta say, it's honestly not as bad as you think it would be, given that the time period that it came out in. Now obviously, it's not perfect, and I'll get into that, but I do think that it is legitimately better than like your average PS1 era voice acting, you know, like Resident Evil and whatnot. And weirdly enough, there is a couple people in the voice cast that I actually did recognize. So yeah, people like Terry Osada, who was in that PS1 game I reviewed last year called The Note, and then you have Len Hart, who happened to be the old voice of Anna Williams from Tekken, and then you got Paul Lucas, who is known for doing roles like Lan Di from Shenmue 1 and 2, and he was even Pico from F-Zero GX. And then there's Bill Sullivan, who was also known as doing Xiahou Dun and Dion Wei from Dynasty Warriors 2. And yes, the voice acting that he does in this game is better than Dynasty Warriors 2, by the way. And then finally, there's Ryan Dress, but I couldn't find any info on him, so I don't know what else he did. But yeah, the voice acting in this game overall, I actually think is legitimately decent. Not perfect, it's not on the same level as like Kudelka's voice acting. But the one thing that does amuse me about the voice acting is the character Steve. Like every time he's panicking about something, like it just amuses me too much. I'll show you just a couple examples.
This is fucking great! Why me?
Hey, you there. Are you okay?
Are you from the rescue party?
No, I was one of the passengers.
I was this close to getting back to headquarters in the state. Why do we have to get caught up in this crap? We're not even fucking Maruzen! It's Pachamama's fault! If you hadn't been on the flight, it would never have crashed!
I'm so sorry.
You don't have to apologize for anything. It's the Marusan government army's fault.
I've got an idea. If they want her, we should simply turn her over to them. What do you say?
How could you be so mean? That's the most absurd idea I've ever heard. We're witnesses. They'd never let us live.
I agree. Turning her over to them will not solve anything. Since we can't expect a rescue party now, we'll have to get off this mountain on our own. Unless we stick together and cooperate, we will never get out of this.
Shit! Shit! Shit!
Shit!
Yeah, it may sound a little bit too goofy for a game like this, but that's really, like, probably the biggest complaint. And even then, like, I still think it's funny, so I don't have any huge deal with it. So now, if you want to go out and buy yourself a copy of this game, so there's quite a few of them that I've seen, but they all seem to be all over the place. Like, most of them usually seem to be about, like, $30, but then there's, like, a bunch of them that are, like, a lot more. They're going for, like, $70 to $80, which is ridiculous. But I feel like there is more than enough, like, cheaper versions out there to not bother with those other ones. So if you really want to own a physical copy of this game, then I can say that, well, it's not the most expensive one out there, so that's good. And besides, this game's actually, like, not that long at all either, so I wouldn't recommend paying, like, those stupid prices anyways. So now, as my overall thoughts on this game, is that this is a game that I actually did enjoy my time with. I actually thought it was good. Not great, not amazing, but good. So it is mostly a story-driven game, so that's really what you're playing it for, and I think the story in this game was actually pretty good overall. Like, I thought it had some very interesting character moments, and also had a pretty interesting twist near the end, which did take me by a little bit of surprise. Now, it wasn't like the biggest, like, what a twist type of thing, but, you know, I thought it was a pretty interesting one. And as you know me, I try not to go into spoiler stuff, since I do feel like this is a game that you probably should play yourself if you do want to know the story, or, you know, you can always just watch a video on it. And besides, it's an old game that didn't get released over here, so to us, it's almost like a new experience at that point. But the one thing that I did like was that I did find that the characters in this game, they kind of felt real and somewhat relatable to some degree, so I thought that was actually kind of nice and refreshing. Now, of course, I love my over-the-top anime shit, but it was kinda nice to play a game like this. The gameplay was simple and easy to play, even though I did had to use a walkthrough for a lot of, like, the hard parts in it. But there was quite a few parts in the game where I actually did figure it out myself, and I actually felt pretty proud of myself for doing that. And I don't need to go over me praising the music and the graphics, since I already did that. But yeah, if you do want like a pretty decent story game with a pretty cool concept, I would recommend the game. The only problem is that, well, you know, trying to play a game like this while using a guide at the exact same time can be a little bit tedious and isn't for everyone. But if the game had a fan translation, I would gladly replay it again, and at that point, I probably would recommend it to more people if this is a game that's right up your alley, because, well, it is a puzzle game, and of course, those are not going to be for everyone. So yeah, this game isn't really a spooky game to review for October, but fuck it, I do what I want. So with that said, thanks for watching and commenting, and have yourselves a great day.
Slice and dice.